got to talk about Kamala cackling Harris. Yeah, Miss I wash my greens in the bathtub Harris. Yeah, because apparently she's seriously considering another run. I know. She's more so leaning towards running for governor of California, or California, rather than the the Democrat nominee for president. But who knows? With that being said, what do y'all think about that? Comment below. But let's dive in.
Every Democratic candidate is going to spend a lot of time talking about Donald Trump. At this point, that just sort of comes with the job. But it appears that Californians, in addition to the partisan back and forth, are looking for a candidate who can articulate a vision on affordability, on housing and other issues, on cost of living, on homelessness.
Headliner and former vice presidential candidate Tim Walz bluntly telling the crowd Democrats are losing working class voters.
But somewhere we strayed from our North Star. Right here, right now, Trump and the Republicans are going to screw stuff up enough with the working class. We're going to have an opportunity to be their champions.
Notably missing was his running mate, Kamala Harris. She appeared only in video amid chatter about if she'll enter the race to replace Governor Gavin Newsom.
Our fight to advance freedom and justice must continue.
If Harris decides to get in, she'd be an instant frontrunner. But experts say it wouldn't be without a primary fight.
She'd probably have the most uphill fight of any frontrunner that I've ever seen in politics, California or elsewhere. Voters generally don't like coronations unless they like the person being coronated.
Saying growing questions surrounding President Joe Biden's cognitive health could hurt his former VP.
The biggest challenge for Harris is the Joe Biden question. What did she know and when did she know it?
Harris is expected to make a decision by the end of summer.
Other candidates for California governor include former Congresswoman Katie Porter, former Health Secretary Javier Becerra, Lieutenant Governor Eleni Koulianakis on the Democratic side, and for Republicans, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco and former Fox News host Steve Hilton are hoping for a GOP comeback. Those are just some of the more than a dozen who are already interested in running, and we are exactly 1 year out from the 2026 primary on June 2nd next year.
Yeah, golly, man, oh man. You know, on one hand, part of me wishes that she does run again because it's so much entertainment. It's so terrible, you know. But then on the other hand, I'm like, man, California has had enough. Elect a Republican for once so they can get it straightened out, you know, so they can buy a toilet and a ruler and get the, poop straight. Because I would love to see California thriving again under Republican leadership, because I know it's not going to happen under Democrat leadership. I mean, that's just facts. I don't think, especially what the Democrat Party is today, I don't see that happening anytime soon. But I want to pull up this poll from Emerson, okay? Emerson presidential primaries, and guess who is leading on the Democrat side? Mr. Buttigieg. Yeah, that is quite interesting. That is not something that I expected to see, is Pete Buttigieg leading in the poll. Quite interesting. Kamala Harris is number 2. Gavin Newsom has made a surprise comeback. Because if you guys remember, at one point in time, Gavin Newsom had dropped down to like spot 6 or 7. And I believe, if I remember correctly, you even had somebody like Jasmine Crockett ahead of Gavin Newsom at one point, and AOC was ahead of Gavin Newsom at one point. And speaking of AOC, she is in the number 4 position, ahead of Governor Shapiro, Bernie Sanders, which I don't think Bernie's going to run again, Booker, Whitmer, Gretchen Whitmer, Bashir, and 23% undecided. On the Republican side, we have J.D. Vance, to be expected, right? That's not a surprise. J.D. Vance, of course. But Marco Rubio being number 2 is quite interesting, and I'm not sure that I like it. Now, I do like what Marco Rubio is currently doing in the Trump administration, but I don't think that erases, to me, that doesn't erase everything from the past. And I know J.D. Vance has had his his things in the past as well, but I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me. And DeSantis, I personally couldn't vote for DeSantis for president. For governor, absolutely, but he's termed out. He's been a phenomenal governor of Florida. I don't think anybody could ever deny that. But for president, I just don't see it. I think if he were president, he'd become a rhino. But that's just my humble opinion. You guys can let me know how you feel about Governor DeSantis in the comments section. If you guys feel like DeSantis would actually be a true America First president, not a governor, but a president, y'all let me know in the comments. But for me, I just don't see it. I just don't get that feeling from him. But that's just me personally. RFK Jr., no. Kristi Noem, nah. And hey, Nikki Haley, absolutely not. One thing that I will say is comment below who that isn't on this Republican side that you want to see on this list. Y'all let me know. Y'all let me know. If Thomas Sowell was young enough, I'd throw Thomas Sowell on there. I love Thomas Sowell. But also another person that I think should be on this list is Larry Elder. I think Larry Elder should be on this list. Now, where he falls in, that's to be determined, but I do think Larry Elder should be on this list. But that's just me personally. Y'all can let me know how you feel in the comments, all right? Or who you think should be on the list in the comments. Now, I do want to also show this to you guys. And let me move my head out the way over here. There we go. All right. As you can see, Kamala, 30% of the black vote, which I don't get it. You know, I don't get that. I really don't. You know, doesn't make sense to me. But clearly, Pete Buttigieg, 22% of the white vote, 10% of the Hispanics. It looks like Newsom has a pretty good even split amongst everyone. But yeah, man, there's the splits. But I want to talk about a little something from the New York Post. Kamala Harris' potential gubernatorial run isn't exciting anyone, donors say. Yeah, you read that title correctly. The donors are not excited to get behind another Kamala Harris run. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Okay. The outlet spoke to multiple Democratic Party donors in California to see how they felt about Harris possibly running for governor. So far, her interest in exploring a gubernatorial run in the state following her 2024 presidential election loss hasn't enthused many. She still would probably lead, but honestly, no one is incredibly pumped. One Southern California fundraiser told Politico. Harris, who lost in, wait, no, I'm not going to read that part. There was another part. In interviews, several major donors in the state told Politico they fear her reemergence as a candidate would reopen still fresh wounds from her defeat in 2024, the outlet reported. Some harbor lingering frustration about how her billion-dollar campaign juggernaut ended in debt and want assurances she would have a clear plan to win the governor's mansion. Mather Martin, a party fundraiser from San Francisco who worked for multiple Harris campaigns, told Politico there was more enthusiasm at first for Harris, for a Harris run. However, he added, I think it waned a bit. Another donor who gave a six-figure donation to Harris' presidential campaign last year told the outlet they had found the implosion of her White House bid traumatizing and seemed reluctant to support her in the state. Kamala just reminds you we are in this complete S-storm. With Biden, we got bamboozled. I think she did the best she could in that situation, but obviously she knew about the cognitive decline too. I've written so many checks because I knew the Trump administration would be horrible, but we're living in a nightmare because of the Democrats. I'm furious at them, truly. The donor who declared that no one is incredibly pumped about Harris's run also shared that donors realize it's going to bring up the whole pathetic last presidential, which no one wants to hear about again. And then it's a whole, did you know Joe Biden thing. So yeah, Joe Biden is coming back to haunt Kamala Harris, and she should have just told the truth about Joe Biden from the very beginning instead of lying about it, and should have managed the money that she was given wisely. Because, mind you, she was given an astronomical amount of money. An astronomical amount of money. Like I said, if I remember correctly, the final tally was like $2.4 billion that between her campaign and PACs and everything else spent on the Kamala Harris presidential run. $2.4 billion. If I remember the number correctly. You got correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that number, but I do believe it was $2.4 billion in total. Not just her campaign, but the PACs and everything included, right? And that was all in like 3 months. You burned through $2.4 billion only to lose every single swing state and the popular vote. How terrible do you have to be to spend that much money and still lose? Like, it wasn't even close. Like if it was like super close, like she lost by like one state, like it came, like the whole race came down to just one state and she lost. All right, cool, fine, whatever. I mean, it was a lot of money, but at least she still came close. But I still would rag on her about that. But she didn't even come close. And now you're possibly going to ask donors for even more money, especially now that Doge has exposed some things. Act Blue, Congress has subpoenaed the leaders of Act Blue. They're going to have to answer some questions. Why don't these numbers match up? Why, when, we've gone to ask questions to the people that you said were donating to Act Blue, they don't have a clue about these donations? What's going on here? USAID? And now all of a sudden we're getting reports, and I talked about this the other day, we're getting reports that the DNC is going broke. I don't think that's a coincidence. After Doge has run through and discovered some of this fraud, waste, and abuse, basically shut down USAID, Act Blue is being investigated, right? The Democrat Party's big donating arm, right? Organization, Act Blue is what they're called. And now all of a sudden the DNC is going broke? I don't think that's a coincidence. I think something was going on there. There was some money being funneled back to the Democrat Party somehow, some kind of way. And now that that's been shut down, I don't think we're going to see $2 billion being spent on a Democrat nominee anytime soon. I'm just saying. And if they couldn't win with $2 billion, what makes you think they're going to win with $800 million? I mean, that's a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But if you can't win with $2.4 billion, you're definitely not going to win with that number cut in more than half. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. So I don't see it happening. I don't see her winning. And if she does possibly run, I think actually it is California. I will say this. In California, she has a shot. As the presidential nominee, she's cooked. But also, if she loses California, whether that be she wins the primary but loses in the general in California, or just loses the primary, her political career is over. It's done. Finito. It's over with. So if she's smart, which I'm gonna be nice. But if she's smart, I think I would sit this one out. I would sit out probably 8 years and make a return after 8. Hopefully after, all of this talk about her lying and being absolutely terrible kind of dies down, if she was smart. But, I said I'm going to be nice. Y'all get in the comments and let me know what you think. Do you think she's actually going to make a run? And if she does, is she going to run for president or is she going to run for governor? And is it going to work? Y'all let me know in the comments. Y'all stay safe out there. Thanks for tuning in as always. Peace and love. I'm out.